Hi, guys, and welcome back to Drive to School Chat, where we discuss a subtopic in geography on our way to school. Now, today, I'd like us to talk about the impacts of rapid economic development in India. So, we are talking about development here, and we know that development is the process by which a country progresses or improves socially, economically, and environmentally. So, that those improvements and that progress that India has made, what impact has that had on the country? And we are going to look at it, or we are going to divide the impacts into two categories. The first category being social change, and then the second category being economic change. Now, let's start off then with social changes, rather, that have taken place in India as a result of rapid economic development. And the first one is urbanization. So, rapid urbanization. Socially, the economy of India is evolving from a rural economy to an urban economy because we know that urbanization is an increase in the proportion of people living in towns and cities as compared to those living in rural areas. So the number of people now in India that live in towns and cities has increased tremendously. And that's why we have the growth of mega cities such as Mumbai, which is one of our major case studies for our specification. Now, we can then link that to the development that is taking place because we know that as India develops, there's a lot of manufacturing that is taking place. And it's that manufacturing that is going to lead people to leave the countryside to go and work in the urban areas because those urban areas have those jobs in the manufacturing sector of industry. And then on top of that, because of mechanization, because India has progressed in terms of technology, mechanization in farming means that the jobs in the rural areas are decreasing. And that's because machinery is now taking the place of human beings in terms of having laborers within a farm, on a farm, for example. So there will be fewer laborers on the farms because machinery is doing the jobs. And that would lead to unemployment in those rural areas, and those people would be forced to move to urban areas to find work. And the second one is later marriages. Now, obviously, if more and more people are now working, then it means that they are going to focus or working in those urban areas, they are going to focus a lot more on their careers other than having a family. And therefore, India has now experienced a change in their a social change rather, which is where people are getting married a lot later. Then the third change has to do with the population structure of India. And when we are discussing the population structure of India here, we are talking about three main things. And one of those things that we'll be talking about where the population pyramid is concerned would be the birth rates. And the birth rates in India have gone down as a result of India's rapid development. And the birth rates would have been going down or have probably gone down because of those later marriages, for example. So those later marriages mean that people are delaying having children, and therefore the birth rates are going to fall. And therefore, the population pyramid of India is changing such that the base of their population pyramid is no longer wide at the base, but is beginning to to narrow as a result of those lower birth rates. Then you also have lower death rates in India as well. So that also is changing their population pyramids. And that is because there's better healthcare. And because there's better healthcare, it means that people are living longer. There is a higher life expectancy. Then the third change that has taken place in their population pyramid is the dependency ratios. Now, we know that dependency here is referring to the proportion of the population that is below the age of 14 and above the age of 65 that relies on the economically active people in the population. Now that means that the children that are below the age of zero, are between the age of 0 to 14, cannot support themselves, obviously, because they are of school going age, and therefore they rely on their parents or their guardians for their sustenance. And therefore they are relying on them, and they are their dependents. And their parents or guardians are likely to be working and therefore are economically active and therefore supporting them. And then the other category of dependents is the people that are above the age of 65. Now, those people are retired, are likely to be retired, and as a result, they are relying on a pension from the government, and that pension is paid using taxes from the people who are working, so from the economically active. So, the dependency ratio in India has changed. And that's because we now have a larger group of people who are economically active, which means that the dependency ratio has gone down. And when the dependency ratio goes down, it then means that that country is making economic gains. So it's progressing or developing rapidly. All right, let's move on then to the fourth um, social change that has taken place, and that is the dilution of culture. Now, as more and more people live in urban areas or they move from rural areas to urban areas, then the culture of India is being eroded over time. Now, we do know that India has a caste-based system where there are social classes. So there are four castes within India, or social classes. So obviously there's the highest social class and there is the lower social class. And traditionally, there was hardly any movement from one class to another. Most people within the same class would, uh, you know, interact with each other and socialize with each other, and obviously, get married to each other and so on. And therefore, those social classes were maintained by that. However, as people now move to those urban areas, there's a lot more social integration. So, meaning there is a mixing of classes. So, people are now not discriminating against the people that they are going to get married to in terms of their social class. And therefore, that ends up creating a situation where there's a lot more social integration. And in so doing, there's an erosion of that culture of having social classes within the country. Okay, so let's move on then to the economic changes that have taken place. And actually, the main economic change that has taken place is that there is now a lot more inequality in India. And this is economic inequality that we are talking about. Because when you go to those urban areas where people are moving to from the rural areas, there are two classes of people. There are the people who are very highly skilled and have got specialist skills and therefore have higher paying jobs. And examples of jobs that those people work in may be, IT, so information technology. They may be university lecturers, they may be doctors, and so on. And as a result, they have a very good income, and therefore, their quality of life or standard of living is fairly high. Then there is a group of people or a category of people who are unskilled. And the unskilled people are obviously working jobs that are not that well paying, and therefore have a lower quality of life. So those unskilled workers are likely to be working in sweatshops, for example. And if they are working in sweatshops, then it would imply that their income is fairly low. And then in those sweatshops, the working conditions are not that great necessarily. They are not normally that great. And as a result, their standard of living or their quality of life is therefore fairly low. Then those people again who are unskilled are likely to be working in the informal sector. And that informal sector may not be paying them that well, and they don't have benefits anyway. They don't have like medical benefits, they don't have pension benefits as well, and therefore their quality of life is lower than the skilled people who are working in those well-paid jobs. So that rapid economic development in India has led to economic inequality in the country. Okay, so let's do a very quick recap. What have we talked about? We have talked about the impact of rapid economic development in India, and we have categorized them into two. We have said that the first category is social change. And under social change, we discussed rapid urbanization, leading to growth of mega cities and large cities within the country. And then we also talked about changes to their population pyramid. Then we also talked about the fact that there are later marriages. And finally, we talked about dilution of culture in the country. Then we went on to discuss the economic change. And the main economic change is economic inequality, where you now have two categories of people in the country, and especially those who work in the cities. So you have the highly skilled who are very well paid and who have a very good quality of life. And then you have the low skilled people who have a lower income and therefore a lower quality of life. Okay, so that brings us to the end of this Drive to School chat. Thank you for joining me in this journey towards excellent exam results. If you have a topic that you'd like us to discuss on the way to school, please do let me know in the comment section below, and we will be sure to discuss it one of these fine mornings. All the best, and see you again soon. Bye-bye.